Right on time. Check, check, test. Hello, 1, 2. Let's see here. Okay, yeah. Right on time. Okay. Hello, hello. Round Town Scouter. Great to have you in from Columbus. I spent some time around Columbus. I went to a music festival at, well, it was an old quarry. Quarry. What was the name of that place? It sure was fun, though. I had a great time. Anita Zayas from Fort Worth, Texas. Welcome. Great to have you in. I usually kind of chat for just a minute or two or three while we kind of wait for people to get connected, and then we'll get started. I thought what I do tonight was look back on some comments that have come in recently and look ahead at the next couple weeks. I think I've got a plan for next week where I had a couple questions come in at the end of the chat. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, and it was from a gal that wanted to know about getting her camper ready for winter camping. And so I think we'll probably talk about that. Mabel Cliff, no. It was east of Columbus. I want to say 40 miles or so. Nelson comes to mind. Hi, Michigan Dave. Great to have you in. Let's see. What was the name of that quarry? I'm going to have to look it up. It's going to drive me crazy. Nelson Ledges Quarry Park is what it was. Nelson Ledges Quarry Park. Yeah, it was a really great place. Hi, Tim from Georgia. Great to have you in tonight. So I guess I'll give you just a quick update on Dad. Um, he's doing better. He's doing actually pretty well. But if you don't know, I'm in northwest Arkansas, about 30 minutes west of Harrison, Arkansas on US 62. And if you've been watching the news, you've seen that Springfield, Missouri is a real hot spot for the COVID right now. And it's leaking down in here to Arkansas. And they had to move Dad today because they took one of the wings of the care center he's at and turned it into an isolation ward because apparently they've got some COVID people there, which made me and Dad both nervous. Of course, I've had both my shots, and so has he. But they moved him again today. It looks like he's probably got at least another week there, maybe two. And so I guess as long as he's there, I have to be here. So anyway, that's kind of the update there. Not much going on here. I did have to replace the water heater. So, I guess that's life, right? Wasn't making much hot water. You could get about a 2-minute shower and then you were out of hot water. So yeah, I ended up having to replace the water heater. And of course I had to take the whole door and the frame out to get it in the closet it's in because it's dedicated to that. But if you're just coming in, be sure and drop a comment. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you like what you're seeing, give me that thumbs up. Those are really helpful. They get YouTube to ranking my video higher and get more people to see it. Don't forget to visit my website at trbolin.com. That's really helpful as well. The more traffic that gets, the more Google ranks it up higher and gets more people to seeing it. And so I appreciate all of your support. If you have an RV question, of course, be sure and let me know. Just drop it over in the comments in the chat window. And I think we'll just go ahead and kind of roll through here real quick and look back. Oh, and I did want to mention one thing. I did have a comment come in, and when I get comments from people, if you have a YouTube channel, I usually investigate it. I'll click on your name and see if you have any content and check it out. And this couple who looks like they've started their full-time travels, I guess it looked like maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, something around in there, called Eat, Travel, Happy. That's the name of their YouTube channel, and I invite you to go over and check them out. They're full timers. They've got a Grand, I think they have a Grand Canyon. No, they have a what is it? It's blah, 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 blah. Oh, I just completely pulled a blank. But he's got some really fun content on there around working on his trailer, uh, uh, stuff like that. So if you go over and check out Eat Travel Happy, and if you decide to subscribe to their channel, drop a comment, let them know I sent them. I sent you. Okay. Yeah, great people. I thought they were really nice. I imagine we're probably not going to have a lot of folks tonight because of the NBA. I think is it the championship tonight? I think the Bucks came back or something like that. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of basketball. I'm more of a baseball fan. But anyway, let's go over and take a look at some comments that have come in the last little while. Um, and I always love this type of comment, and I get it frequently. And this is why I do the RV how-to videos. And I got one from Streamin' Freedom, and he said, "Hey, thanks. I've got one out on rental, so he must have some rentals that he's running." And this is in response to my how to replace the outside shower faucet assembly RV how-to video that's on my channel. But he says he was glad to see that I had to take the whole panel off, as that seemed quite intimidating. And yeah, when you first look at it, if you're in your wet bay and you're in a Class A, it looks pretty, like a real problem or a real going to be a hassle to get that panel off. And I thought that too until I took it off the first time. But he says now he feels like he can handle it. So I think that kind of comment is what keeps me going as far as making the RV how-to videos. I wish I had my RV here so I could be working on it and making some videos, but it isn't working out that way. Not right now, anyway. That's all right. Let me check over here on the live stream side. Hi, John. Okay, let's see here. My Dometic awning extends fast but retracts slow. 2011 Thor RV. Get some dry spray lubricant, your favorite. WD-40 comes to mind, anything like that. And spray all your bearings. So extend your awning out all the way, and then where the two connection points are on each end of that awning, spray them down really good with some spray. Get them down inside, around the pin that goes in. There's a bushing in there that you want to get that into. And then also touch up all of the joints everywhere where it bends. So there's probably going to be arms that will be bending, and you might want to touch all those up. The other thing it could be is, do you have hydraulic cylinders? So are there hydraulic cylinders? Because sometimes on those awnings they'll have hydraulic cylinders that help them close. And so you might want to look at those. They can get weak. They're easy to replace. You can get the replacement parts online. You basically look at it, and it probably will have a label on it that says how many pounds it lifts, and then the length of it, and then you can just go online. They sell them on Amazon, and I've replaced a number of those. They're called strut rods. If you're going to look for them on Amazon, they're called strut rods. Um, you can pick those up and replace those. This sometimes will help. And then the last thing is, it could be it's just getting old and tired like us all, and it doesn't want to move fast. No, I'm just kidding you. There is a huge spring inside of that the tube where the awning is attached to. There's a huge spring in there, and that spring could be getting old and weak and causing it to retract slowly. So I would try lubricating it first. Hit all of the moving points with some WD-40, and that might help it, come in faster. Otherwise, it could be the spring and maybe the motor. Inside of that tube, there's a motor that turns and rolls it up if it's motorized. And of course, it sounds like it is. And uh, so it could be getting old and tired as well. The reason I say that it's weird that it would be fast going out and slow coming in, because when it's going out, it's unwinding the spring. And so when it comes in, that spring assists it rolling up. It's like your garage door. On your garage door, you have those two big springs that sit above the garage door that help it open and close. And the spring inside that awning tube is basically the same concept. Hello, Julie Gage. Great to have you in from Michigan. Anita Zaya says, I have a fuse that powers the entry step and tank gauges that seems to lose connection. I replaced the fuse, but still happening. Do I need to replace the fuse block or any other suggestions? Um, when you say it powers the entry step, but that seems to lose connection. When it loses connection, does it blow the fuse? Otherwise, it sounds like something's loose. Um, you might look and inside those fuse blocks, and you want to be careful with this because this will be hot unless you can disconnect the battery, which might not be a bad idea. But inside the fuse block, there's usually two little clips that hold the blades on the fuse. And with the needle nose pliers, you can gently squeeze those a little bit and and scrunch them down so they're a little bit tighter. You want to do it gently, enough to scrunch it down, but not really hard so they mash out because then you'll ruin it. And so I would look for a loose connection there. You might also just try to move the fuse and see if that makes the connection break. Um, but otherwise, yeah, it sounds like there's a loose connection somewhere. Whether you have to replace the whole block, I don't know. Is it in a fuse block with other fuses together? Because then you might be able to move it. Um, and So there's another thought as far as if there's a loose connection somewhere or there's some problem with that fuse block. If there's an open bay in the fuse block, and oftentimes there is, there'll be an open spot where there's no fuse. You can just move the wire from the one spot to the other spot that's open, and you should be good to go at that point. You can try that as well. I hope that helps with your problem. Whiskey Business, yeah. Hey, nice to have you in. Back from last week. Oh yeah, he bought a '76 Dodge chassis American Clipper. The tires are okay for now, but I will replace them before my first trip. Everything else on her is okay except her radiator needs a high colonic. That's not unusual. A vehicle that old, you can generally get them rebuilt. Find a radiator shop in your town. It might cost you 150 bucks, but they can rebuild them and rot them and that kind of stuff. John, you're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for watching and commenting tonight. Matt, Stefan, he says, thank you for your videos. I've learned a lot. Newbie question, your best tip when winterizing the black tank. Just drain it completely and just leave it empty. If you're in a freezing climate, you'd never want to leave water in any of your holding tanks because it will freeze. And the lowest point in your holding tank system is right there at the valves. And so the first bit of water you put in those tanks runs into those pipes at the valves and it'll freeze. And so you want to make sure that they're completely drained. And then I also recommend that you leave the tank, make sure they're completely drained, then leave the tank valves open. That will prevent any ice or anything getting into that and busting if you live in a cold climate. Yeah, if you live in a place where it doesn't freeze, it just gets cold. I still don't recommend anything in the tank at all. Drain them out completely for winter. Anita commenting back, great. This is what this is for, so we can go back and forth and I can give you assistance. No, doesn't blow. I wiggle it and it works again for a few. Okay. So yeah, it sounds to me like that socket's loose. First thing I would do is like get a pair of needle nose pliers and pinch those tabs down inside the socket. Be careful about that. And otherwise, look for an open spot that you can move it up to, and then just move it. Your third choice would be to disconnect the wire from the block, get a fuse block, an individual fuse holder with the fuse. You can buy it's a pigtail. You can get it online, Amazon or any place like that. You can go to an auto parts store and find it on the shelf as well. And then just bypass the fuse block, but never bypass the fuse. Okay, don't bypass the fuse. Well, thank you very much for the super chat, Anita. That is so kind of you. I greatly appreciate that. Whiskey Bitness, my question this week are, anyone recommend satellite internet? I'm converting to live this in field vehicle to to sit on GIS and GPS work as a freelancer. So I need good mobile internet. Well, yeah, mobile internet works. HughesNet, I'll be honest with you, my RV, when I got it, had HughesNet on it. I happened to hack the HughesNet. Well, I hacked the satellite dish, and so I could use my DirecTV LNB on it. And so I could take, when I still had a sticks and bricks, I could take my DirecTV receiver and the LNB, which is a device that sits in the end of the satellite dish, and move it over to my satellite dish on my RV. So I had my DirecTV with me when I was traveling. Um, you're not going to get great upload speeds with satellite internet. They advertise online at 25 megs down, but you're only going to get, if you're lucky, you get a meg and a half, maybe 2 megs up. So if you have a lot of data that you need to send up to get someplace else, satellite, I mean, it might be a good backup system if you're far enough out in the sticks that you don't have a good cell signal. But I think you're better off to invest in a good cellular booster, the WeBoost 4G-X. I have listed in my Amazon store. I got to put in my shameless plug. Um, with a directional antenna, and there's 3 videos on my channel around using a cellular booster with a directional antenna. One in specific was at my favorite place, one of my favorite places, the Boondock, which is at Birch Creek. It's BLM land, 14-day BLM land up on Birch Creek, and it's north of a little town called Mud Lake by about 30 miles. It's about 65 miles northwest of Idaho Falls. But out there, there is no cell signal whatsoever. But with my cellular booster, it worked fine. And then I went to upload a video and I realized, well, I was getting good download links. I could stream, but it was like, a meg up. And I was trying to upload a 2 gig video. That wasn't going to work. So I just fired up my directional antenna and got it tuned up. And at the peak, I was getting 85 meg downloads and 9 meg uploads. I think it was 9. It might have been a little less than that, but whatever it was a whole lot better than what I had before. So you might want to check those videos out. Also, uh, there's a great YouTube channel that I highly recommend, Chris and Cherie, the Mobile Internet Resource Center, and their whole thing is about mobile connectivity in as a nomad or in RVs and boats. They also have a boat, and so I recommend their channel as well. Um, if you want to know more about some of the cell, MIMO, Wi-Fi boosters, it sounds to me like you're looking for remote connectivity. And then, of course, yeah, your last choice is going to be satellite, but be prepared. The uplink, the upload speed is going to be pretty slow, and I think it's kind of expensive. You're going to be $250 a month probably to get anything decent. It's just my guess, but I hope that helps. He also says, with whiskey business, I just want to say risky business. And how much would you all budget for basic repairs for the shower and toilet plumbing? They are currently totally detached. Yeah, if it was me, you know what? I would just replace it all with PEX. And PEX is fairly inexpensive. You don't need to go whole hog and get metal fittings. The plastic fittings are just fine on the PEX. It's plug and play, right? Most, if a plumber was watching this, he'd be cussing me right now because most plumbers wouldn't do that. But I think the PEX would work just fine. And to completely replumb your toilet, I think to completely replumb the whole RV, you would probably be into it for maybe $200. And I think that's stretching it. I mean, it's going to be a little bit of work. It's, chasing those plumbing pipes down could be a real pain. But yeah, I would just go PEX, and I would just do it that way. Yeah, I think that would make it functional, just using PEX. You're welcome, Matt. Peter Winter asks, oh, hey, thanks, John Carter. You're very generous, very, very generous. Thank you so much, sir, uh, for the super chat. Okay, Peter asks, hi, how can be connected the 12-volt refrigerator? Um, we have a regular viewer. I don't know if he's in the chat tonight because I haven't scrolled down, but Randy, um, a regular viewer of ours, Randy Waller, just put a 12-volt fridge in his RV, and it's there's nothing to it. You just have to find 12 volts positive and ground, and you know follow the connection diagram on the fridge. It's pretty simple. If you have an RV with a fridge, you're already going to have 12 volts to that fridge, because the control signal, the voltage they use to run the computer and all of the smarts of the fridge are all 12 volts. And so there's probably already 12 volts at the fridge, but I hope that helped. Oh, yeah, on whiskey business, he mentioned he ran out of space, but he's just saying that on the radiator, it needs some of the hoses replaced and patched, is what I mean. Yeah, I would just go ahead and replace all the hoses on the 1976, or there's nothing worse than getting out there and having a hose blow. They're not that expensive. Hell of a lot less expensive than a tow job. Oh, okay, Peter says, I would replace the propane one. Actually, was stolen. What? Somebody stole your fridge? Okay. Uh, Human beings never cease to amaze me. um, okay, yeah, so there is one. Randy, I think, used a GE. Uh, we'll ask him if he comes in tonight, and if not, I will do the research and find out. I got to take a note here so I don't forget. Uh, but yeah, 12-volt fridges for RVs definitely available. Very easy to install. If you already had a propane one, you're going to have 12 volts there. The only thing you want to double check is in the instructions to install it. They're going to tell you what gauge, how thick the wire needs to be. I'm not exactly sure how much power one of those fridges draws, but you want to make sure you have a wire of a sufficient size. And it's as simple as running it to a fuse block. You want to make sure it's on a fuse. And that's the other thing you might want to check, is that if you're going to reuse the wire that was driving your old fridge, you want to make sure that you've changed the fuse out to be the appropriate size, and you want to check that wire gauge. Um, I could probably help you a little bit more with this. If you need some help, feel free to drop me a note to my email, trbolin, BOWLIN, at gmail.com. And I can probably help you, and I can definitely get in touch with Randy and find out what he installed and what gauge wire he used and stuff. And he's a HVAC guy, so he's a smart fellow. He's a fart smello, and um, a fart smeller. Who was it that said that? Was one of the Grand Ole Opry guys, Grandpa Jones, I think, off of Hee Haw. But yeah, we can definitely get you set up on that. No problem. Hello, John. I am glad you are here, and I was looking forward to this evening as well. Yes, definitely. Yeah, Mobile Internet Resource Center. AFG, how's it going with you? D. Jensen, thank you so much. That is so kind. Those super chats, I just say thanks. I don't know what else I can say except that I'm very thankful that you support the channel as you do. Peter comes back. Thanks. Yes, it is the problem. It is when I'm connected to the RV park is 110, and how do I run it? Yeah, okay. Stolen the whole interior, cut the catalytic converter. Jesus. Wow. Sorry to hear that, Peter. Man, that is a drag. But, those catalytic converters, man. As I mentioned, I'm near Harrison, Arkansas, and that's the paper that my dad gets is from Harrison. And there was an article in there just the other day that they had 400 catalytic converters stolen since the first of the year. So I guess there's big money in that. And now there's a way to get around, uh, you know, taking them, because when you take materials to the scrapyard now, they want a blood sample, they want the name of your firstborn. I mean, they want to know who you are because of all the copper theft and that kind of stuff that's been going on in the last, number of years. That way they can maybe track people down. But um, I guess now there's a black market for them. So if you know the right people, you can still sell them, and they never have to go through a scrapyard. And it's black market. It never sees the light of day. Thank you, damn you. Thank you, Whiskey Business. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to have helped. Yes. FG, okay, he says, hi there. I can't seem to find any inverter on my 99 Coachman fifth wheel, nor where their location would be if I need to install one. Well, on a rig that old, FG, you may not have an inverter. So if I was going to make a recommendation, you want it to install it as near the batteries as you can. And the reason for that is that the longer the cable is, the more power voltage you lose as the power goes through that cable. And so you want to get it as close to your batteries as possible, okay? Or practical, I should say. So that's making my head itch to have to think about that one. Anyway, so yeah, that would be the trick: is get it as close as you can to that your battery pack. That will keep the cable length as short as possible on the DC side. On the AC side, of course, it's doesn't matter. But and then yeah, if you're going to install that, you're going to be looking at putting in some kind of a breaker box and running some 110 power to some spots or that sort of thing. It might not be that hard to do. Because you can run the 110 power from wherever the inverter ends up to wherever you hook up to the RV park's power. And most likely, yeah, excuse me, I'm going to back up. I was thinking you didn't have any 110 at all, but you've got to have 110. So then you can just run the feed wire from the inverter to your breaker box. Now, what I was going to say is you might need to install a sub panel, a smaller breaker box, to run some circuits to that because it's kind of impractical to run the whole RV off an inverter. You don't want to try to run your AC off your inverter, that sort of stuff. But you want circuits like your convenience circuits for your TV or you know kitchen counter appliances and stuff like that. And you can buy an inexpensive breaker tracer if they're not marked. And it's just a little widget you plug in. Of course, you don't want to have any power in the RV, but you plug it in. It puts a signal on the wire, and then you can go back and find what breaker it is. And then it's just simple as putting in a small additional breaker box, probably put it right by your regular breaker box, and then moving the wires from the regular breaker box into the inverter breaker box if there's not one present. The sure way to tell if you do have an inverter and you just can't find it is do you have two breaker boxes? So that answer me back on that, FG. Thank you, Peter. I'd be happy to help you through email. Get in touch with Randy. We'll find out what he put in and that sort of stuff. But yeah, 12-volt fridge, no big deal. Anthony Lawler, thank you for your help in sharing your geo method for the black tank. You are very welcome, Anthony. That thing works. It just flat out works. In fact, I'll pop over to some comments from that here in just a minute. Yeah, you're not going to find a schematic for an RV. We talked about that last week, I think it was. I'd had several questions asking about schematics. Might have been you. Um, but yeah, those schematics are just impossible to find. They just don't have them. That's why what I did was I just got a breaker tester or a breaker tracer. And again, with the power all shut off in the RV, you can actually do it with the power on, but shut the power off. Just be safe. Well, actually, no, I take that back because the one I got, you had to have the power on because the little transmitter widget used 110 power. And so you plug it into an outlet, and then there's a receiver that you go to your breaker box, and you push the little button, and it'll warble at you. There'll be a sound that you'll know, okay, that's the breaker that circuit is on. And you can trace those circuits just like that. It's pretty simple, actually. Food porn chef. Hey, still in Idaho? Question mark. What a few full-time insurances for my travel trailer. I'm out of Texas, and after 2 years with my insurance, won't cover my rig because they said they cover the vehicle as residence? Okay, I use Geico, and they're getting fewer and fewer, but in between that will let you full time. But Geico did. I had the same thing happen to me 2 years ago. I was on Hartford AARP with my RV and my car, my Toad, and I was a full timer, and I had declared it, and I had extra insurance because I had stuff in storage, actually here near my dad's house here in Arkansas. But they covered it all, and I got a $35,000 rider on it, and I'm thinking with Hartford on the RV was probably 900 a year, something like that. When I went to Geico, it jumped to 2,000. So it's expensive. It's getting that way. It's getting tough for full timers to find insurance. Okay, FG, yeah. So I would put the inverter up by the batteries, and then I just run, an appropriate sized wire. I wouldn't go anything less than 2,000 watts, and you might think about doing an inverter charger. Okay, the difference is the inverter charger also has a charger in it so that you can charge your batteries. The downside of that is you'd have to run two wires, two Romexes, but no big deal. And then you're probably going to want to use 10 gauge Romex. That'll give you 30 amps, which is more than enough for a 2,000 watt or even a 3,000 watt inverter. So use 10 gauge Romex, and you should be good to go. But you're going to have to run two of those. One will be your inbound charge wire. Okay, so that will charge. Um, oh, wait a minute. Now that I think about this, I'm sorry. Um, I, now that my head's still itching, so I'm still thinking through this. You're going to need to run two wires anyway, because you're going to need to run 110 to the inverter, um, because that's how your outlets that you put on the inverter will get their 110 power when you're not running your batteries, when you're not on your batteries. But yeah, so you're going to run two circuits from your existing breaker panel up there, but no big deal. Um, just be sure and secure them well. Don't let them bounce. And uh, if at all possible, if you tie it to a frame rail, so if you're going underneath and you're going on your frame rails, make sure that you don't have any kinks. And it's not a bad idea to add a little bit of extra electrical tape every place where you're going under a frame rail, or especially if you're going through the frame rail, you're going to want to get little plastic bushings to put in the hole, because RVs rock and roll going down the road, and you don't want that wire rubbing back and forth and chafing and wearing through and shorting out. So if you're going through drilled holes in your frame that are existing, you want to get bushings, little plastic bushings. They're easy to find. You can get them on Amazon. Um, I would be very hesitant to drill holes in my frame to run those wires. Um, if you don't know what you're doing, you could weaken the frame. And so you should be able to find existing holes. And then on the other hand, you could probably go through the basement. And in that particular case, you would, just use some standard cable hangers, that are insulated, and you should be good with that. Okay. Hope that helps, FG. No, I didn't say Progressive. I said Geico, Food Porn Chef. I used Geico. I didn't even call Progressive. And Geico, but wait a minute. Let me back up. The RV wasn't 2,000; it was 1,600, and that included the $35,000 of additional contents protection in the RV and another 30,000 of contents protection for my storage unit. It went down about $100 a year when I dropped my storage unit. But yeah, I used Geico. Oh, Whiskey Business says his catalytic converter was stolen off his car just 3 months ago. Yeah, it's going around for sure. Yeah, I got you. That's the one I know of, Food Porn Chef. Yeah, okay. Okay. You're welcome, FG. Happy to help. Oh, in Utah, Dugway, Area 52. Yeah, kind of warm down there to be there this time of the year, isn't it? Oh, you had USAA. Yeah, like I say, the insurance on your RV is getting harder and harder to come by for sure. Well, hello, Linda, Camp Goer One. Did you make it out to where were you headed? Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota? George, aka Dad. Welcome, George. Great to have you in. They live in their RV 30 weeks a year, and their homeowners insurance covers their 2004 Class A. Used it once for a $7,000 repair. Safety insurance. Safety insurance, the name of the company. Good to know. So there's maybe another option for you, Food Porn Chef. Yeah, Linda, I gave a little update at the beginning. Dad's getting better, and unfortunately, the care center is on lockdown right now. I got a call that they're coming off lockdown because of COVID. There's a real COVID outbreak going on here in this area. Not so much in Carroll County where I'm at, but east of here and then up to Springfield. I'm sure if you've been watching the news, it's been all over the news. Anthony Lawler, 2019 Integra, nice rigs. Okay, having issue with my gray tank sensor, not reading anything, troubleshooting method. Your tanks are dirty. Go watch my how to eliminate smells in your RV's holding tank. Easily get rid of black tank smells. Um, your sensors are dirty. So here, I'll just tell you real quick, but go watch that video on my channel. Um, Soak that tank. So you want to fill it with, let's see, I can't remember. Are you a full timer? Um, if not, you want to soak that tank. So here's what I recommend. In fact, do this to both your black tank and your gray tank. Fill them full with fresh water when you put it in storage next time. Add a cup of borax to each, the black and the gray tank. In the black tank, add a cup of Dawn dish soap. In the gray tank, put 2 cups of your favorite concentrated degreaser. I use Zep concentrated orange cleaner, available at a big box store with orange logo. It's 10, $12 for the gallon. And put 2 cups of that in that gray tank and then let it set and let it soak. And then take and dump it before you go on your next trip. You might have to do that a couple times, but that'll get the crud and junk off of it. Here, I'll share. That reminds me of a comment that came in here. Just a second. Let me see if I can find it. Here we are. From Christina Moreland. I'm sorry, I can't share my screen. I still have an issue with my laptop trying to share stuff. But this came in from Christina Moreland on my easily get rid of black tank smells in your RV. Mr. Bolin, you are a steely-eyed missile man. Well, I just watched Apollo 13, and that's one of my favorite quotes from that whole movie. We did your soak at home, and then the road flush. Now, what the road flush is that if you get the opportunity, you take and you put a third to a half a tank of water in both your black and your gray tank. Treat them like I told you with well, in this case, at least a half a cup of Boraxo and at least a cup of orange cleaner and a half a cup of Dawn, and then go for a ride. And that sloshing and slushing around is going to agitate and it's really going to, forcefully help swish around in that tank and clean it out. So then they did the road flush, and our sensors, which had not worked for 2 years, worked after our second empty. Uh, we're going to use your method from here on out. So thank you. Well, thank you for your very kind comment. But that's what you need to do, Anthony. You just got to clean that gray tank. I'm betting you anything that's why they're not working. They get full of gunk. In your gray tank, you get a lot of grease and fats and oils and that kind of stuff. And that stuff accumulates on the walls, it gets on the sensors, and they quit working. FG says, inverter charger is what I was thinking. We were talking about his inverter. I just don't know how sufficient sized inverter I need to run everything. Okay, well, really all you have to do, FG, is you can make yourself a really quick power budget. And so if you're thinking you want to run your microwave and a TV and things like that, a CPAP, anything like that. All you have to do is figure out how much power it uses, and that's really simple. If you have a 1,000 watt microwave, figure 1,000 watts. If it's a CPAP and it uses 100 watts and you run it for 8 hours, well, that's 100 watts you need. We're not going to worry about the time at this point. Um, but just go through and calculate how much you're going to need, and then how much of that, how many of those appliances are you going to run at the same time. So here's a good example. You might have the TV on, maybe your satellite dish receiver on, and running the microwave. That's probably about 1,400 watts. In a 99 Coachman, like you're talking about, I would think that a 2,000 watt inverter would be more than enough, a 2,000 watt inverter. Now, the price difference between a 2,000 watt and a 3,000 watt isn't that much, but I have a 40-foot Class A, and I would run a desktop computer, my microwave, have the TV going, and those sorts of things all off my inverter. And 3,000 watts was more than enough. You might find out that the difference between a 2,000 watt and a 3,000 watt inverter is, $200 or $300. And to me, that's not a lot considering what that buys you. That's a third more power, and you'll never use 3,000 watts. If you do, go to an RV park and plug in. Wink, wink. 5 p.m. at Dugway in Utah. 102. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Looks to me like it's about 86 in Pocatello where I live. Um, John says, run a diesel. Yeah, just kidding. Yep, good one. Okay, Camp Gore 1. I got a new problem. The valve assembly that goes to my gas tank, apparently Ford doesn't make that part anymore, so I have a vapor hose that is hanging. Ohio, no, the kids came back. Oh, okay. Look at a junkyard. Start to call junkyards and see what you can find. There is a place actually just not far from here. In fact, I drove by it. Let me think about it for a minute. Up in Ohio, up in Missouri, that is the king of junkyards, and they will ship parts. And if you call them and tell them what you got, they'll go out and pull the part and send it to you. Yeah, that's what I would do is I would check junkyards. And Merrigan's, no, not Merrigan's. Hang on a minute here. Let me just look that up for you real quick. Give me just a second. Cola, COLAW RV. They've got to be one of the biggest RV junkyards. They also sell new RVs, but the one. Okay, sorry about that. Come on, catch up. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Don't give up on me. We're getting back to it. Sorry about that. Um, we had a little binka-bunka-boo go on there or something. Hopefully it's still connected. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay. I always forget there's like 6 seconds. Sorry about the bump there, folks. Don't know what happened. Uh, Good old reliable DSL internet, I guess. Okay, I think I got your question answered there, Linda, I hope. Safety Insurance is the name of that company there, Food Porn Chef. Yeah, Linda, for sure. Yeah, it's COVID's still around, and it's that Delta thing, for sure. Did I call it Boraxo? Sorry. Yes, Anita, it's borax. I've probably told this story a number of times, but I grew up hanging out at my grandpa's service station a lot. He had a Chevron station for 45 years. And one of my jobs was cleaning the bathrooms, and they had the Boraxo powdered hand soap. And that was one of my jobs, is to fill those containers with Boraxo powdered hand soap. Um, okay, Linda Campgoer one says the valve assembly that I need has two line connections for the gas vapor hoses. Yeah, I hope a gas tank repair place I called can drill out another hole in the tank to get a single vent connections for two. Yeah, and they might be able to tee it. They might be able to put a T in and work it that way as a workaround. But if you strike out, then Cola would be the place I would go. You're welcome, FG. Thank you for your help and the advice. You're very welcome. Yeah, I'm probably not going to make it up to Aaron's meetup in Iowa either. I'd love to, but that adds 500 miles to my return trip. And I don't have my RV, so I'd have to stay at a hotel. And all right, here's a great question that just came in from Jason Alyssa 09. I've gone through 3 thermal fuses on my water heater in the past 2 weeks. Any thoughts? Yeah. How old is your rig? How big is the water heater? Um, you could have an element failing in the water heater if you're running it on the electric. Um, yeah, so that's probably what I would suspect. It could be an element um, that could be failing and shorting out, especially with it being intermittent like that. Um, if you end up having to replace your water heater, I would highly recommend that you get a tankless. I have the Girard tankless water heater. It's a perfect fit for your typical 6 or 10 gallon Atwood Suburban RV water heater. And okay, so I'm sorry that it's getting really choppy, um, but it's going to be the best I can do. We're coming up on 45 minutes anyway, so we'll probably have to keep it a little shorter tonight. Sorry about that. Um, okay, so where am I here? Oh, 3 thermal fuses. Yeah, so yeah, I would check your element, and if you can't find a replacement, um, yeah, you're probably looking at having to replace the water heater. Robert Black 1911 asks, is it hard to adjust the cables on a slide? My jump's going in and out, and I see the lower needs to go further out to match the top. Yeah, it's usually not. And here's what I would recommend, because I have no firsthand experience with that kind of a repair. I've adjusted the slides on mine, but go to the irv2.com, go to the owners forums for your rig, and ask that question. And I'm sure you're going to get detailed instructions from somebody on how to do that, or they'll send you a spot or a place on the web where you can find the instructions. Um, but I wouldn't think it would be that hard. It might take 2 people, but yeah, I wouldn't expect that to be that hard. Linda says, been calling all over Phoenix. It's Cola, Colaw. Yes, they're in Missouri. But yeah, you can definitely just call them, tell them what you need. If they've got it, they'll send it to you. Yeah, you're gonna have to pay freight on it, but at least you're getting the replacement part. But junkyards too, you might try junkyards. George, aka Dad, he comments, we are used to private septic systems at home, no cooking grease down the drains. We use a ceramic coffee cup in the RV and empty it outside in the fire pit or into a Ziploc bag when the cup is full. Yeah, you're still going to get a little bit of grease in there, but not much. But yeah, there's still going to be a little grease on the plates. Even though you're pouring it out of the frying pan or whatever, there's still a little bit of grease that gets in them. And eventually it plugs up. The problem is, and I don't mean this to, I'm not trying to sound harsh against anybody whose gray tank sensors don't work, because mine have gone through that. Um, but people just think, they don't have the mentality that it's an RV, and so yeah, they'll dump grease down the drain and stuff like that. Um, but it's easy to get out. You just got to soak it out. Yeah, that's pretty good, George. I think you're probably on top of it, but I'd still bet you there's some grease getting in there. Wink, wink. Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry about the little bump there. It looks like, although it's a little choppy, it's still holding on. It got really grouchy there for a minute, though, didn't it? Oh, thanks, Food Porn Chef. Yeah, send me that. That would be great. He says he went to the cleaning museum. Was that Don Aslitz there in Pocatello? That's kind of fun. And saw the Boraxo hand pump you talked about and took a picture of it. Yeah, email it to me. That'd be fun to have. Oh, Linda, well, if it's that, the 35 gallon, same as the Econoline E350 chassis, there's got to be a junkyard in Phoenix. You should be able to find that in. Just look for junkyards, used auto parts, that kind of stuff in Phoenix, and just start calling around. I'm sure you'll find one that's got it. You may have they may not. Well, some junkyards, take the parts off because they don't want people destroying the vehicle because there's other parts on there. But yeah, I would check junkyards. I think you're probably, if it's just an E350 Econoline, you're bound to find one. You should be able to find one there in Phoenix. Not new, but from a junkyard. Cola, Julie, Colaw. They're in Missouri. It's Cola RV. Um, Hang on here. I will post the URL here. Give me just one second. Okay, so I just put the link to their website in the chat. So that should be in the chat there for you guys. Colaw, Colaw. No signs of burn on the. Oops, sorry. No signs of burn on those thermofusible links. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I hate hotel beds too. Welcome through Two Feathers. Great to have you in. 2021 Dometic. Huh. Jason, okay. Yeah, you have a new rig. Do you still have a warranty on it? Probably not. Yeah, I would suspect this is on 110, right? Let me make sure that I understand, Jason. That's on 110 that you're having problems with those fusible links. Two Feathers. We're commenting back on hotel beds. Yeah, they never watch the bedspread. That's the first thing that comes off. I have a friend of mine that won't sleep in a hotel bed. She takes this sleeping pack thing she has. It's like a sleeping bag, but it's not a sleeping bag. But yeah, she won't sleep in a hotel bed. That's funny. Okay, Jason says it works for 4 to 5 days after I swap those fusible links for the water heater. Yeah, again, is that the 12 volt or 110? Let me know. There you go. Tempe. Yeah, that's not that far away. Yeah, FG, just flush them and soak them. That's the best treatment. They get crudted up and they just quit working. That's true, George. George, aka Dad, says many of the good scrap yards have websites that you can check for a part. And Cola does. They have a list of the inventory of chassis they have in inventory. And so at least you can start by looking at that. But they don't have you wouldn't be able to trace down a fuel fill off of Cola. You'd have to call them. Okay, so Linda says, yeah, it can be modified, certainly. They could drill a hole, add another tube, and solder it in. But gosh, that sounds like it might be expensive compared to just getting one from a junkyard. I don't know. Not sure where Aaron is. He's totally volunteer and he might be working. They've been really busy up there, he said. So, okay, so it's your 12 volt. Wow. Jason, do you have the capability or the knowledge to measure the amperage that's being pulled by that circuit? You might want to look at that and see if it's pulling too many amps. That's weird because the if it's the 12 volt side and it's the fusible link in the 12 volt side, it doesn't. The only thing the 12 volt does is the control. It doesn't heat water using 12 volts. It's either gas or 110. So if it's the 12 volt side, yeah, if you can measure how many amps that's pulling, and if it's, even though it's a fusible link, they blow out, it's like a time delay, right? And they'll blow out, and that means you got a short somewhere. If it's tripping like that and burning up, you've got a short somewhere and intermittent. And those are real buggers to find. But that would be the first thing is go through and check that wire from end to end if you can, or at least what you can find of it. Make sure everything's plugged in or screwed down tight. Make sure your wire nuts are nice and tight. Those sorts of things. Make sure you got a good ground. But other than that, geez, I don't know. That sounds like could be a problem that you might have to replace it. Um, but let's look for loose connections first and check your grounds. Oh yeah, food porn chef. He reports I had to break down and call repair guy. He'll come in 2 weeks. My refrigerator stops cooling completely on 12 110 propane. I tried resetting it with 15-second off and nothing. Yeah, you're in a little older rig if memory serves. And yeah, those damn old Norcolds, when they go, they go. And they're expensive to replace, which is why I went with a residential. That's pretty funny. That's RV life. Food porn chef. He says, "Fun summer, lost money, and upgrades." Yeah, that's RV life for sure. Tom Downey has a question here. I have a Multi Plus 3000 and a Smart Shunt and a 3030 charger, but only the multiples shows on the device list. Multi Plus. Um, hmm. Have you tried resetting your Smart Shunt? Um, have you tried resetting the whole system? You might want to pop the negative off of your battery pack and completely power down. Or if you have a disconnect, throw your disconnect and try to power down everything. Um, because, yeah, that sounds like something's not communicating there. Uh, it's a 2020 Dometic. Yeah, probably. You probably want to go and get to Dometic's website with the model number of your fridge and look in the owner's manual, and it will tell you how many amps it's drawing at 12 volts. So you want to check your owner's manual, and it should tell you that in the owner's manual in the specifications section. It should be drawing less than what your fusible link is rated for, too, by the way. So let's say your fusible link is 20 amps and you measure it and it's 22 or 24 amps. Well, you got a problem, right? I mean, sorry, but yeah, that's a bit of a problem. Yeah, well, reinstall, actually, yeah, just reboot everything and see if it'll all come back up, Tom. They're all Bluetooth. Yeah, then that definitely reboot. Have you watched the IT Crowd on Netflix? I'm an old IT guy, right? I was an IT geek for years, and their biggest running gag in that one is, "Have you tried turning it? Have you tried turning it off and on again?" Yeah, I try to shut it all down. pull the power off of everything, and then reboot everything and see if it'll come up and start talking again. You know, the, every once in a while, my smart shunt, because I have the BMV 712, and I'm kind of guessing that might be what you have too, Tom. My BMV sometimes would get a little flaky communicating, and yeah, I would just bump the power on it. So, you know, and the way I would do that is, there's that fusible link, right? So there's a fuse that comes uh, that powers that multi plus, or that powers come on, the monitor, the smart, the BMV, the shunt. There's a fuse in there. You just pop that fuse out and put it back together, and that'll reboot it. And your multi plus, you should be able to just turn it off completely, and then restart everything all together, including whatever device you're using to read it. If you're using Bluetooth and like a tablet or your cell phone, um, yeah, then I would just reboot everything and see if you can get that to work. But yeah, my BMV would drop off every once in a while. Once Food Porn wants to trade his RV in for a nice Super C. Yeah, you better have a deep pockets, dude. Those Super Cs are expensive. Yeah, the Victron stuff, man, that is solid. But yeah, sometimes the Smart Shunt, the BMV 712, would get a little persnickety, and it'd want to drop off on my monitoring. And I also have I had Smart Solar too. I had the 150 100 solar charge controller from Victron. Although I didn't have a multi plus, but I did have the Smart Shunt and the Smart Solar. And yeah, every once in a while they would get a little grouchy. Oh, and by the way, have you updated your firmware? I know that Victron, they would release a firmware update. Oh, probably a couple times a year that I seem to remember. So you want to make sure you've updated your firmware and your software. That's important as well, Tom. Chuck C asks, "What are your thoughts on sway bars on the rear of a Class C?" Um, well, I think sway bars are good. I'm assuming you're probably uncomfortable with the amount of body roll you have. And for those of you that don't have a motorized chassis, Class A or C, Bs you wouldn't notice this, but Class A's and C's, there's a fair amount of body sway in those that they'll rock back and forth like this a little bit. And yeah, sway bars will help that, but um, you know, I put a steering dampener on my RV, on my '04 Dutch Star 40 footer, and that helped a little bit. But sway bars are good, but it's not totally going to get rid of all of that. Depending upon the age of your rig, too, you might want to think about looking at your shocks and making sure your shocks are in good shape, because that can cause a fair amount of sway as well. I know when I replaced my shocks in 2019, man, I was really surprised. And by the way, don't waste your money on expensive shocks. Don't buy Conies or Bullsteins or any of those. Just get yourself a good set of Monroes. You're not going to know the difference, and it ain't a race car. And you'll save $250 a shock. I get a joke, I get a laugh out of this because I watch quite a few of the RV forums on Facebook, and yeah, these guys are, oh, I bought Conies and I bought Bilsteins and all this and that, and they're paying, $1,500 for shocks for their RV, right? Well, it's not a freaking race car. And I put the Monroes on mine that Freightliner put them on actually. They're basically the factory replacements. And um, yeah, no big difference. Of course, I haven't driven it with Conies. They're Bilsteins. Bilsteins, yeah. Bilsteins. But come on, you know, that's those are the people with more money than brains. Sorry. That was a long answer, Chuck, wasn't it? To get to the point of, yeah, I don't think sway bars would hurt, but I don't expect a big improvement in body. How much your body roll happens. Oh, Tom has a 2000 Newmar Mountaineer. yeah, those Mountain Airs, I have a '04 Dutch Star, and yeah, they're rock solid, but no solar yet. Yeah, I put 1,860 watts of solar on mine after I replaced the roof. There's a couple videos on my channel if you're interested. And I really parts and everything in the solar. I was probably only into it for maybe 1,800 bucks. I don't know. At the end of my solar video, I'm pretty sure I give you a bill of materials and what each cost. Um, it was, I think it was a buck, maybe a buck and a quarter per watt. So I know I was under 2,000 for my whole solar setup, and that and the lithium batteries totally changed my life as far as um, as far as boondocking and dry camping goes. Robert Black comments, Monroe shocks, lifetime warranty, good shocks. I sold them for years. Yeah, they're solid. I mean, like I say, you can pay $200-300 for the big high fancy hoopy scooby shocks, or you can pay 50 to 80. I think the shock job on my RV, front and rear, with the parts, was under $300. And Freightliner did it for me. I usually would take my rig to Freightliner for any chassis work, if at all possible. Where are we at here? 9:07. Okay, we're going to wrap it up here in just a few minutes. Thanks, George. Um, Great to have you in. Look forward to having you in next week. Let's see. Let's roll back here. Two feathers. Here's my hotel nightmare story. My sister and I were in Deadwood. I was there a couple years ago. She was cold and wanted to add her blanket, so she threw back the covers. Yep, you guessed it. Stains on the sheets. Ugh. Ugh. I traveled extensively when I was an IT geek. I was gone 70% of the time. And I don't mean 50 miles from home. I mean, Idaho to Atlanta, or in a couple of cases, Idaho to India, or Idaho to County Mayo, Ireland, or places like that, right? I traveled quite a bit. And yeah, I got some hotel stories. But I generally tried to stay. Unfortunately, the company, I stayed at Hilton's, I'll be honest with you. When you travel like that, you have to concentrate on one single hotel chain as much as possible. Always rent from Avis, always fly Delta, that kind of stuff. Tom, yes, I would. I would highly recommend the Henry's Tropicool or the Bright Tech, the Henry's Bright Tech. As far as roof sealers go, absolutely good stuff. And yeah, it works good. So yeah, I would. Is your roof rubber or fiberglass? Oh, well, that's a good. There you go, George. Yeah, George has a 2004 Dutch Star as well. He's on a Spartan chassis, but we still like him anyway because I have a Freightliner. Sorry, but I was considering replacing the steering damper. Had an opportunity while at Spartan to do a full chassis inspection for $125. That's a pretty good thing. Yeah, that's a good investment. Yeah, my friend. Um, oh, geez, I just pulled a complete blank. Oh, we put an inverter in his RV last fall. Oh, what is the matter with me? It's late. But he went to Spartan and had Spartan do their thing. And yeah, he said his drove like a new bus too, uh, George, after they took care of all their recommendations. He got new airbags and shocks, and they did, they set their ride height and they did all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much, Jason. You're very kind and very generous. I appreciate the super chat tonight. Two Feathers says, we marched down to the office and made the manager come and take a look. Good for you. She offered us another room, and we're like, no. Yeah, that was the beginning of my RV experience. Yeah, good for you. That's usually how it kind of starts, right? You get tired of dirty, nasty, yucky hotel rooms. And actually, I mean, I've told the story before, but one of the reasons I bought the RV was because I was doing contract work, And I was going to have to be in Virginia for like 6 months and then down to San Diego for a long time. And I was just done with living in hotels. Oh, Linda reports that daughter and her boyfriend recently sealed her Toyota with Henry's. Yeah, it's good stuff. I highly recommend it. It's not expensive either, so it works really good. I would not put truck bed liner on my roof. No. Um, yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would stick with the roof coating, Henry's or the like. Oh yeah, of course, George. Yeah, I mean that's why they want to do that inspection so they can give you this list and say you should probably do this. The nice thing about it though is they give you the options, right? And Spartan Freightliner does the same thing. This is high priority. You should do this right away. This one not so much high priority. Maybe do that one next year. And that's the way I lived in my RV was is that I had a list of things that I needed to take care of. And I mean that's to be honest with you, it's why it took me 3 years to get lithium batteries was because first they were expensive, and I only had a certain amount of money budgeted every year for maintenance on my rig, which, by the way, was $5,000 if you're interested. Um, and so, one year, like 1 year I did the roof and added solar panels, and then the next year I did the batteries and those sorts of things. You could do the same thing with your chassis, on the high priority versus low priority kinds of things. Even with remodeling, I mean, I did the same thing with remodeling. I would 1 year I put in the tankless water heater, and then the next year I put in the wood flooring, that kind of stuff. Yeah, Henry's at Home Depot for sure. Home sweet home for sure. Alrighty, well we're coming up on 9:15. Um, last questions before we wrap her up for tonight. Probably not, Linda. I don't think I'm going to make it to Arizona this coming winter. I got to think that my dad's going to be living with me. Um, I haven't had this discussion with him. Unfortunately, he can't watch my YouTube channel right now. He does, by the way. I don't think he'll be independent again. I think he's going to have some help. But that's why I bought the house, anticipating that. Okay, just a couple more questions here. Oh, Tom says he doesn't have leaks. We want to remove all vents and renew them all. Yeah, I did that too. I put new vents in mine when I did my roof. And yeah, that's a really good time to reseal it. You might also consider there are gaskets that sit underneath your AC units on the roof. And in a rig that's 20, did you say, I think you said yours was a 2000, and a rig that's 21 years old, maybe 22, um, those gaskets, their foam gaskets might be getting a little cruddy and crunchy, and it's not that hard to remove the AC unit from the roof. They're on the new Mars. There's only 4 screws that hold those in. Of course, you have to pop the electric loose, but that's easy enough to do. But to pop those AC units off, and what I did with mine when I was working on the roof, well, and I've removed them before for other reasons because I was looking for a leak, but I just set it on my slide. That got it up my roof so I could work on the roof, appropriately. So, all right. Well, I think we had a really good chat. I really appreciate all the super chats tonight. I mean, you guys are so generous, Jason. And um, let's see here. Whiskey Business, Fitness, John Carter, D. Jensen. You guys are just the best. I do appreciate it. Like if you like what you saw, I appreciate that thumbs up. Uh, if you're not subscribed, I do invite you to subscribe and ring the notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever any new videos come up or when my live stream starts. Next week's live stream, we're going to be chatting a little bit about getting your camper winter ready, not winter rising, but getting it ready to live in cold weather. We'll chat a bit about that. And then, of course, your questions are always welcome. Um, what am I forgetting? Nothing. Thanks so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. And until we get together next week, peace. Bye bye. Where's the off button? Okay. Good night, all.